No matter what size, large or small, a disaster rips apart people's lives. The impact may affect one household or a whole community. That impact may resonate for just a few days or years as people recover by repairing and mending a fabric that will never be exactly the same.
When our community is affected, it's not just the individuals and the families who are affected directly because of that tornado or those floods, but the community is impacted, the infrastructure, the transportation, the business.
It was really amazing to realize the depth of the needs that these people had. They had needs for food, clothing, shelter, counseling. They had all kinds of emotional needs they were going through by being displaced from their home, from their community.
Community responders never know when the call for help will come.
Many times I got the call, you know, that call in the middle of the night that you prepare so well for. It's at 2:30 in the morning, and it takes you a while to, you know, to understand that you're about to go to a 3-alarm fire and help a lot of people.
National media attention usually focuses on large-scale natural disasters or terrorist events.
A large-scale disaster leaves a community without the ability to function. You can't communicate. In many instances, you won't have electricity for weeks upon weeks.
We had so many people, mainly housed in our gymnasium and our Family Life Center, and we had predicted that we could handle about 400 people. But just putting them in cots took up not only the gym floor, but also upstairs. So we had really overbooked, but there was a need, so we wanted everybody to be able to come in. They had nothing when they came, so once they had a bunk and started finding clothes and people started helping by giving things, that became their home, their bunk.
Although local emergencies like single-family and apartment fires and even flooding may go unnoticed nationally, they make up the vast majority of disasters, and they can have a huge impact on the lives of those affected.
Well, we had a house fire a few years ago, and the fire department was on the scene for about 2 or 3 hours. We were living in a hotel for about 2 weeks because it wasn't fit for habitation, but it took 6 months before we could actually have a fully recovered house.
One of the things it really showed us was that when we go out to talk to people who've been in a disaster, our responsibility is to talk to every one of them. That people's individual responses are really potentially very different from each other, and we need to have talked to everybody there at that disaster event, in that family unit that we meet.
Whether the disaster is small or large, an apartment fire, earthquake, hurricane, tornado, or flood, the immediate needs of those affected are the same: food, clothing, shelter, emotional support, and information about the path to recovery delivered in a sensitive and compassionate way.
In a disaster, it's a tremendous equalizer. It doesn't really matter what happened before. The question is, what do they need?
During the Katrina evacuation and sheltering, we provided psychologists that would just come on site and walk around and just observe the environment and be available if a situation arose that someone would need to talk to someone about what they were going through.
The best way to minimize the impact of a disaster and make sure the needs of those who have been affected are met is by using all the resources in the community.
One unique partnership that we have ongoing is with the Texas prison system. Everything from laundry to helping to do food service to warehousing, refrigeration trucks. Anything that we asked, if they had it, they gave it to us.
Well, in our case is the Unity Council. That's a very influential agency in the Spanish-speaking community here in Oakland. And we know that in times of disaster, people are going to turn to them. So we understand that. So we need to not only identify and establish a relationship, but we need to continue to cultivate that.
Most of all, people impacted by any type or size of disaster need reassurance that they will be safe and will get help in restoring their lives to normalcy.
I personally was on the media action team, and I would be called out and dispatched with the disaster action team. And oftentimes I would arrive with the emergency services personnel, volunteers and staff members. Sometimes I would arrive before them depending on the location. And I'll never forget how rewarding it was when you were the person that was able to tell people affected by disaster that everything was going to be okay. I still get a little emotional. It's rewarding, and then you forget that you were actually called at 2:30 in the morning.